So today we're going to be looking at social support. I'm going to show you how to map out your social network and tell you why that's important for community psychology. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about Facebook and why they're messing up our social networks. Why I'm negative about positive psychology. Back to the story, because I've got a story to tell you. So I've got some top tips on how to take up the map report. If you are studying an undergraduate degree in psychology, I encourage you to think critically. It helps people like me stop doing stupid things. So, social support and social networks. This is a really central topic in community psychology, and it's a very useful way of getting away from the obsession of what's in our heads to thinking about the social context in which people's lives are lived, you know, the relationships people have with each other. So one way of thinking about it, it's not about what's between your ears, it's what's happening with your peers. I know, I'm not going to make a poet. Anyway. Okay, now I'm going to be walking around a little bit at the start of this video. It's not only because I need to jazz up my YouTube videos, and apparently this is the way to do it, but also I've got this challenge going on at work, which is a step challenge. So I have to keep moving, taking steps, because I'm in a team and we're like 21st out of about 32 teams. So I'm doing a lot of walking, but I'll settle down in a minute, because I've got an activity I'd like to talk you through. But first of all, social support. Yeah, it's a key topic for community psychology. It's all about the relationships we have with other people. Now, in community psychology, what we should be doing is sprinkling in a little bit of analysis on social power to think about how inequalities impact those relationships. But we're not going to do that today because we've got a fair bit to fit in, and I want to keep this video short. But in another video we'll have a look at social power, how our relationships with other people are affected by power inequality. So relationships between employees and management, relationships between customers and corporations, or relationships between us and politicians. Whatever it is, those relationships become really important to focus on when you look at power. But we're looking at social support. Now we're going to focus on one form of social support, which is emotional support. So emotional support is all about listening to people, showing compassion and empathy for people, particularly when they're going through a rough time. So what I want you to do is to think about the people who you know, not just casual acquaintances, but kind of friends or family, who you would go to for emotional support. So if you're having a really rough day, who do you know that you could go to and just offload, talk through the horrible day you're having, kind of having a little bit of a cry on someone's shoulder. So have a think about those people in your social network, the people that you know, friends, family, they can be people at work as well, but not casual acquaintances. So people you know well enough and meet often enough that you can go to for, a little bit of sympathy, a little bit of loving, not that sort of loving, but, people who will just look out for you, care for you. So we've got our paper and I've got a pen, and we're ready now to start our social network mapping. What we need to do to begin with is just get the camera angle right. That'll do. I want you to draw a table. No, not that sort of a table. This sort of a table with columns. It needs to have 4 columns, 1 heading row, and about half a dozen or so other rows. In the headings, write the following. So in the first column, the heading is name, relationship, then setting, and the final column is reciprocity. What I would like you to do is to write down the names of those people who you feel offer you emotional support. So write them down in the name column. Now I'm just going to put names A, B, C, D because I'm broadcasting this on YouTube. and if I want to have my social network intact by the end of this video, you know, if I put down the people in my network and there's a friend of mine, I've missed them off, then they might not want to be my friend anymore. But also what we're going to do is we're going to kind of map out how close we feel these people are to us. So again, you know, it might upset people when you put them further away from you emotionally than maybe they feel that they are to you. Anyway, you get what I mean? Keep it private, only show it to people you want to show it to. So let's get on with this. So yeah, just to keep it private for me, I'm just going to put in the relationship column. What I want you to do is to write down what sort of relationship you have with them. So an example might be it's your mum. You know, person A might be your mum. But your mum might also be your best friend. So put down best friend. So person B, they might be someone you know from school, but also someone you know at work. So the relationship there would be something like student. I can't write anymore. I've lost the ability to write. I'm just used to typing all the time and autocorrect for my spelling. So anyway, so fill that column out with the relationship. So it can be more than one relationship. So you can put as many different relationship descriptors as you want in that column. But the next column, setting, here what I'd like you to do is just to pick one setting, the main setting, which is where you most often meet. Say you are someone in your network is someone you know from school, but also someone you go to a sports club with. So their relationship is sports club member and student. Just pick the setting where you most often meet. For me, it wouldn't be the sports club because I spend less time in the gym than I ought to. So there, you know, I would put school. By the way, the reason I put school down is because I'm not still at school. I know I look very young. I am youthful looking, I know. But I put school because I'm doing this activity for some school pupils who are coming into my university in about a week's time. And, you know, they come to university and then just get a taster session. So they're coming into, I'm running a session on psychology. So they get an experience of what psychology is like, how it's taught at university, you know, spark their interest. I'll probably put them off for life, but that's the reason I've got school down in this example that I'm using. Setting, just pick one. Okay, so you're kind of completing the table. There's only one column we've got left, which is reciprocity. This is where you receive emotional support from this person in your network, but you also give them emotional support. So the emotional support is reciprocal. So, you know, you cry on their shoulder, but they also cry on your shoulder. So if the relationship of emotional support is reciprocal, just put a tick. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put these people on the map. So let me show you. Okay, so we're going to start off by putting a circle in the middle, and that circle is you. You don't have to be a circle. If you want to be a triangle or whatever shape you want to be whatever shape you want to be. Now, next thing is to divide up this page into sections, depending on how many different settings you've got listed on your table. So we've got 4 different sections listed. So I'm going to create 4 sections. And I'll just label them. So we've got family. And the next thing to do is to put the people that you've listed in your table onto the map. So this is how we do that. So just put them down as, you know, circles. Closer you think they are to you, the closer you put them to you in the circle in the middle. So let's just say at school we've got a friend there who is close to us, and we've got some other friends less close, family. Now I want you to join these people up. If your friends are friends with each other, this person is friends with this person, and they're friends with this person and with this person. Okay. So that just means everyone knows each other and they're pretty close. That's a kind of pretty close-knit family. That's the map. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a different version of this, a kind of tidied up version, but I'm going to do it through showing you some unnecessarily fancy computer graphics. I've made this little computer animation just to take you through this. And then in the animation, I'm going to talk to you about the implications for these different configurations in our networks, the way those people are joined up to each other. The graphics are probably distracting, unnecessary, and so on. When I was at school, I never wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to be an artist, you know? I wanted to paint and sculpt and also make films. Oh, I was told that I had no discernible talent. So I ended up in psychology. But I've still got a passion for art, still love creating things. So what I'm saying here is don't judge me too harshly. Just indulge me. I want to have a bit of fun. So here come the computer graphics. Then after the little animated movie plays, I'll just raise a couple of questions. What does social media do to our social networks? What does Facebook and Instagram and the new one, TikTok, what do they do to our social networks? Are they improving them, or are they making them a little wonky? So here's the movie, a little animated movie. Okay, let's pause here for a second. Yep, I put the logo of my university as a backdrop here, and it's an unashamed plug for my university. Because I make these videos as part of my job as a university lecturer, so I need to give an acknowledgement to my university, like, you know, it's a thank you. It's pretty good of them, really, to give me the time to do these videos. So here's that network structure we saw earlier. Now here, what we're looking at is the density of those connections between people in the network. And in this network, we have one person who knows 5 other people, but those 5 other people don't know each other. They only know that one person. You know, they're not connected to each other, those other 5 people. This is known as a low density network because there are not that many links in this network. We've only got 5 links between the people. Now, here's the interesting thing we know about low density networks. They're good when you're making major life transitions. So things like making a transition from school to work. So you're leaving school and entering into the workforce, or leaving school and going to university. Also, moving home, leaving home, or moving to another part of the country, or even to another country. So those big life decisions. Now, why are low density networks good for those times in our lives? Well, it's because you have access to a diversity of resources and you're more likely to get a diversity of views. What you're after during those times is information. You're looking for information and you're looking at advice, so you can make your mind up in terms of what decision to take, which path now to take in your life, So you're looking for information, looking for advice. So often during those times when we're faced with the big decisions in life, we need to have a diversity of advice available to us, so we can make an informed decision. So you have a diversity of resources for information in these networks. And it's because those people in your network don't know each other. And it's because of that, they're more likely to have different views on things. This is because when we're all in a well-connected, interconnected network, in what we call a high-density network, then we have this thing called groupthink going on, where everyone tends to see the world in the same way. So let's get onto that type of network now, because that's the second type of network I drew for you on that map. Okay, here's the high density network. This is where everyone knows everyone. So this is where you get a consensus on norms and advice, sometimes called something like groupthink. Now, what happens here is that you are a group of friends, and to stay friends, you learn to pull in some of your views that differ from the rest of your friends. You pull those views in enough to avoid having any painful fallings out. So if you like jazz music, and I like techno dance music, I've learned not to hate your music, you've learned not to hate my music, because we're friends. We've moderated our views a little just so we don't have so many arguments about music. We've learned to compromise. I might say that, well, jazz is okay, where I might previously have said that jazz sounds like strangling cats. And you might say techno dance music is okay, where previously you might have said it's a musical accompaniment to having a lobotomy. Now, these high density networks are really good to have when you need help in a crisis. And the reason is that you only have to tell one person in your network that you need help, and everyone else in your network will know pretty damn quickly. News travels fast. You don't have to go to each and every one of those people and say, look, I'm in trouble, I need help. You'd have to do it in that low density network. You'd have to go to each of those people separately and tell them you're struggling, you need help, you've been hit by a crisis. In this high density network, just tell one person, news will spread throughout your network really quickly because everyone is so interconnected. Now, the only drawback here is when you're not in a crisis, you don't need help, and say over the weekend you do something silly in front of one of your friends, and by Monday everyone knows about it. That news travels fast. So sometimes you don't want news to travel fast. So what we're looking at here, just as in the last example with the low density network, is a type of information, a type of social support called informational support. Now, there's another interesting thing we know about social networks, and it relates to the column on your table labeled relationships. Here you could add more than one relationship description. So say you could have someone in your network whose relationship to you is both a student and a co-worker. They actually span settings. They span the school setting and the work setting. They stretch over both. And what we know about these social connections is that they are more stable, more secure than relationships where you only occupy a single role relationship with someone. So if you have a circle of friends at school, that friendship circle is vulnerable if you don't really know those people outside of school, because when you leave school, you suddenly lose your meeting ground. If you happen to be a work colleague as well to one of the people in your friendship circle, then you're more likely to continue seeing that person even after you leave school, because you meet them at work. And then we call this multidimensionality. And having more role relationships with people makes your connection to those people more secure. Now, you're not chained to them like a slave. It's on the graphic. This is just a visual metaphor here to signify stability. Oop! That fell off my stool. That serves me right for trying to do a fancy video transition. Oh, where's my social network to help me there? Social media. Social media platforms like Facebook. Let's pick on Facebook because it's one platform that's been hit by lots of controversies. Also, it's a very big corporation that's got a very large reach. Last time I looked, Facebook had 2.4 billion active users. That's a lot of people. You know, that's a huge reach. Now, if we want to try and map that social network, the whole Facebook social network, if we wanted to map that, we're going to need a bigger piece of paper than the one we used for our network mapping. Now, Facebook is tapping into a form of social support we call informational support, which we were talking about just earlier. But also it taps into something we call Esteem Support, which is another form of social support. This is the support we get from a sense of belonging to a group. So we feel part of a community. Now, Facebook effectively monetizes those connections we have through our social networks. It seeks to tap in to the information that is being exchanged by us through those connections and to sell that information on to advertisers and to political organizations who seek to influence our decisions on what to buy and to influence our opinions and to influence how we vote by changing or strengthening which groups we feel we belong to or identify with. Now, is this having a good impact on our networks or a bad impact? Is Facebook, social media, having a good impact or a bad impact on our social networks? Is it strengthening our links with other people or weakening them? Maybe it's having little or no impact, or maybe it's making a very complicated impact that's hard for us to understand. What about our privacy? You know, do we want to have the information we share among our networks given over to people we don't know? Also, what does it do when we have times of real need? You know, when we need to draw on our networks for social support. We had a devastating flood here in Townsville. I'm up in Townsville, Queensland, Australia. We had a really devastating flood, February 2019. And during the flood, people started using Facebook to exchange information. It was a key way that people exchanged information on what was going on because they couldn't get information from other sources. Now, did that exchange of information turn out well for people? I don't know, that's kind of an open question at the moment. And there are lots of questions around social media and social platforms in terms of the impact on our social networks. So have a think. Post some of your questions or comments down on in the comments below. And also give me a thumbs up. You know, if you find this video interesting, give me a thumbs up. It helps to spread the video to other people. You know, it's not just about feeding my ego, it actually feeds into YouTube's algorithms, so more people can pick it up in their search results the more thumbs up you give me. Hit the subscribe button. Again, the more subscribers I get, the more these videos get shared. So, we're done, yep? Well, not quite. Because what about the fourth column? I'm talking about that fourth column on that table that we were drawing. It's the one labelled reciprocity. Well, reciprocity is perhaps one of the most important aspects of our social support networks. Anyway, I've made a video of this. It's called, I think, Psychologists versus Hairdressers, or Hairdressers versus Psychologists. It happened after I got my hair cut. And it's not because I had a fight with my hairdresser. It's a topic that's of real interest to community psychologists, hairdressers, strangely enough. Anyway, it's a whole video on that, so have a look on my channel for that video. I'll put a link below as well. And that will tell you why that column on reciprocity is a really important one to keep an eye on when you're thinking about your social networks and when you're helping other people to map out their social networks. Anyway, that's enough for me for this one. Till next time. Ta-da.